Okay, my friends from the internet, today we are reviewing on Brutally Honest Book Reviews. We are going to brutally and honestly review the book How Rory Thorne Destroyed the Multiverse. Now first, let me tell you that I picked up this book expecting this to be a science fiction book. It is not that book. Now I was going to come out and I was going to bash the book and just say this book sucks, but I'm not going to do that. Because this book definitely has a group of folks that are going to love it. There's no question about it. They're the folks that love books like Jupiter Rising and maybe the movie Jupiter Rising are probably going to love this book. This is not a book for hardcore science fiction fans. So you look at the title, How Rory Thorne Destroyed the Multiverse, and I thought, oh boy, this is going to have multiverses, and there's going to be interesting things, and I see rocket ships and all that good sci-fi stuff, and none of that is in this book. None of it. So you go through the book, and they may mention the word multiverse once somewhere in the back, and it's not even used the way that you think it's used. So who's going to like this book, and who should get this book? Well, this book, again, is for anybody that likes the sort of stuff that we saw in Jupiter Rising. And again, that group of folks is pretty, it's a pretty specific segment of the demographic that likes that book. And by the way, the folks that do like that book really love that book. So they're probably going to really like this book. And if you like books about space princesses and fairies and spunky 16-year-old space princesses doing space princess things with bands of their friends doing things, and sort of part Nancy Drew and part Mary Queen of Scots and part Wonder Woman, and then you throw in a few sci-fi words, then this book is right up your alley, and you're just going to love it. However, if you like sci-fi, and I'm a sci-fi fan, This is not your book. This is just not your book. And let's break it down, and let me show you what I'm talking about. And by the way, spoiler alert, I'm going to spoil everything in this book because I need to do a brutally honest review. And if you folks don't like it, that's okay. I don't care. But I'm going to tell you the way it is, and I am going to give this to you just as honestly as I can from my perspective as someone that's been reading sci-fi for, I don't know, 20-plus years. And that's the perspective it's told from, so I'm not going to pull any punches, and if I have any biases you don't like, too bad, but here it goes. So why is this not a good book for people that like science fiction? Well, let's start out with the multiverse. They have the word multiverse, and it just means, for them, it just means more than like one world. It's not the multiverse that we know of. And destroyed. How did Rory Thorne destroy the multiverse? She didn't. She just went against convention because she's a spunky space princess doing spunky space princess things. And she didn't follow convention, and that's how she, quote-unquote, broke the multiverse. There is no quantum anything going on here. All right, I'm going to break it down on some paper, and let's look at what we have here. So we've got, so we got Space Princess Rory. That's her, and she's 16, and she's spunky. And, she's been put on this space station, and she's got a bunch of body mates, which are actually bodyguards. And by the way, they take a bunch of normal things, and they just change the name. And when you do that, that's not science fiction writing. I mean, I don't know what it is, but it's not science fiction writing. It's not real science fiction writing. I remember reading this in one of those Asimovs or Nebulas or whatever, where they said, look, they replaced Revolver with Blaster, and they replaced Trusty Horse with trusty eight-legged whatever. Well, that's not science fiction writing. That's something, but it's not science fiction writing. So the body mates are bodyguards. Landscot is actually Scotland. Tree rats are squirrels. Viziers are advisors. Then they talk about the technology. Hacking is hexing, and a computer is a Turing, and bots are robots and stuff. Oh, yeah. And there are fairies, F-A-R-I, fairies, And fairies give her magical powers in the beginning. Yeah, there are magical powers. How do you have a science fiction thing when there are fairies giving magical powers? And they say, you know, we'll just accept it. And here's a little fairy I'm drawing over here, giving blessings upon the baby when she was born, because apparently in 200 years there was only one born. So this is the beginning of the problems, right? We don't have science fiction. We have, this could have been done in any era. You're just replacing words with other words. It's just a story about a space princess and her friends who are stuck on a space station, and there's a bad guy, and he's the regent, and he has these two sons, and there's the old one, and he's a baddie, and then there's the young one, and she, you know, falls in love with him, or pretends to, in order to get him to help her, because her princess's mother marries the regent in order to stop a war. And again, all of this can be done, you know, in the 15th century or the 20th century or any century. You're just taking a story and you're just sticking words like hexes and turings and bots and magic and computer programming and giving it different names. And it's just painful. If you're a science fiction buff, yeah, you're going to hate this book. This book is going to suck. All right, moving on to how is the writing? Okay, we know we don't have real science fiction, but do we have real writing? Neil Gaiman? No, this is not Neil Gaiman. Jen Egan? No, this is not Jen Egan. Jonathan Franzen? No, this is not Jonathan Franzen. No, this is not good writing. No. Okay, what is this akin to? Is it John Butcher, the guy that writes things like the Dresden Files? Well, he's a bit better than this, but we're getting closer to that caliber of sort of writing. I mean, okay, she's a writer. The author is a writer, and she does write. But again, this is not great writing. She's telling you a story. Are there some funny parts to the story? Yeah, there's some funny parts. Is there a lot of boring stuff? If you're looking for science fiction, you're going to find this book really boring. Yeah. So yeah, there's a lot of boring stuff here. This is not Percy Jackson. This is not the Dresden Files. You know, this is much closer to Jupiter Rising. That's what this is. And could they make this into a movie? Sure, they could. So good news for the author. Yeah, they can turn your story, your book into a movie, and maybe they will. Bad news for the rest of us. The main character of the movie is probably going to be ugly like the girl in the sparkly vampire movies, right? Because really it's just going to be something to, you know, role model for young girls. Okay, there, I said it. And that's fine, because everybody needs a role model. So this would be great for that. Yeah, you got your space princess doing space princess stuff and solving mysteries and overthrowing the regent and befriending the young son who's sort of getting the raw end of the deal and not marrying the bad guy clone whose daddy was blown up by the vizier, but in fact he's not a clone, maybe, who knows. And then there are the people from Scotland who sort of help out, or I'm sorry, Land Scott. And apparently the people of Land Scott wear like real woolly sweaters and crap. But this all takes place on this big sort of spinning wheel space station, which we're told is, you know, just so humongous that there's entire, you know, cities in the air. And of course we've got paparazzi who follow the princess around, and of course there are people that care about all the interesting things that the princess does, you know, write stories and ship her life in different ways and all of that nonsense. And When you get through this book, you realize there is no multiverse, and she doesn't break it in any way. She simply goes against convention by not doing what she's supposed to do, and bucks the system, and does all sorts of spunky princess stuff who's been blessed by fairies, because I can't make this up, and is also a computer hacker, and is also into cooking, and has all these bodyguards who are her subjects technically, but also kind of her friends, and they train her into fighting and all kinds of stuff like that. And nowhere in this mess is there any science fiction whatsoever. So, that's about it. Yeah. Is this going to get a Pulitzer? No. Is this going to get a Nebula Award? No. Is this going to get, any kind of award? No. No. Nah. No. Is it even going to get a People's Choice Award? So, everywhere you look, Amazon or whatever gives it 4.5 stars, all these great stars. I don't know why they're paying this thing lip service. This is not a science fiction book. This is not for science fiction readers. This is not Scalzi. This is not Niven. This is Scalzi, not Scalzi. Niven, Larry Niven. People that actually write science fiction. This is not them. This is not even close to them. It's just brutal. It hurts to read. So this is my 12-minute, brutally honest book review. I'm sorry if I've hurt the author's feelings, but hey, you'll probably get a movie out of this. Yeah, this is not science fiction, folks. There's no breaking of a multiverse. There's no multiverse. Sorry. If you're into sci-fi, pass, hard pass on this book. And that's it. Thanks.